An elite South African school has been captured by radical Islamists, making its recent anti-Semitic incident unsurprising. A few days ago, South Africa was rocked by an anti-Semitic incident whereby Roedean, an elite Anglican school in Johannesburg, refused to play against King David in a tennis fixture, which is a Jewish day school. But while many people have characterized the incident as anti-Semitic, and rightfully so, many do not realize the deep radical ties that Roedean actually has to an organization rooted in Islamic fundamentalism. Furthermore, it appears that Roedean may have actually been captured by people who not only believe in extremism of the religious nature, but also terrorism. But before we get into it, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's entirely free, and all you have to do is click on the subscribe button below the video. Now let's get started. So pretty soon after the anti-Semitic incident hit the news, I decided to look into the background of why Roedean, or at least some of the students and parents, may harbor such sentiment. And what I found shocked me, to say the least. So much so that I decided to do even deeper research than the reports that I already found online, because unfortunately it seems that the Islamic fundamentalist ties at Roedean run a lot deeper than what many people realize. In order to make my findings known, I decided to publish this report on X, which I titled Roedean, the South African school captured by radical Islamists. I have decided to include the link to this article in the description box below, so please be sure to check out the article for yourself and read it and share it with other people so that they too can see exactly what is going on at one of South Africa's most prestigious schools countrywide. So we're not going to go through the entire article here, just for the interest of time, but I will show you some of my key findings. So, as I explained, after the anti-Semitic incident happened, I decided to do my own research, and it turns out that in late 2023, Roedean decided to contract the services of Hart. So as you can see over here in this paragraph, then acting head of Roedean's junior school, Annabelle Roberts, sent an email to parents in which she announced that the school had appointed Hart as an external service provider for our Muslim community, adding that they would develop a tailor-made curriculum for Roedean pupils. While Roedean ultimately backtracked from their proposed partnership with Hart, Roberts admitted in a follow-up email that Hart was initially suggested by the Muslim parents who made this request. However, the parents have come forward to propose that we do not go through any particular school or organization. She added that Roedean would seek individual teachers to provide Islamic education, and that these teachers would undergo the same vetting process as other existing staff members. And so pretty soon after Roedean announced the partnership, they decided to backtrack. And it does appear that certain Muslim parents within the school suggested Hart as an education provider, clearly because they believe in Hart and they agree with their principles. But the problem here is that even though Roedean decided not to go through with this Islamic education partnership, the people who believe in Hart or support their philosophy are already embedded in Roedean's ecosystem. They are already parents and perhaps students within the school. So you might be asking yourself, well, why is this support for Hart embedded within Roedean problematic? And the answer is pretty clear. So, in the follow-up section here, I decided to take a look at some of Hart's ideologies and a lot of their messaging as conveyed on their social media. And what I found was quite disturbing, to say the least. So, the first social media post that I want us to take a look at comes from October the 10th, 2023. Now that's a significant date because it's just 3 days after the October 7th attacks happened, when Hamas launched a wide-scale attack against Israel in which they murdered, raped, and kidnapped civilians. So as we can see in this specific post, Hart decided to put a caption here saying, "In spirit and blood, we seek refuge in you, Palestine." And that was accompanied with this picture, as well as a small image here of a parachuter. And as I explained, in this Instagram post, Hart has included a statement reading, "In spirit and blood, we seek refuge in you, Palestine." This is problematic for three reasons. Firstly, with the phrase "in spirit and blood," Hart is indicating that violence should be used to achieve their goal. When they say that "we seek refuge in New Palestine," they are clearly referring to Israeli territory. After all, one wouldn't need to shed blood to seek refuge in an existing Palestinian territory of Gaza, as Israel withdrew from the territory completely in 2005. Also, at the time that this post was uploaded, the action that was taking place was that Hamas militants had entered sovereign Israeli territory. So there is no other inference to be made. Secondly, we see how in this image there is a parachuter, as I mentioned, which is representative of the Hamas terrorists who parachuted into Israel on October the 7th, 2023, and took part in the massacre against Israelis on that day. Thirdly, the post was uploaded on October the 10th, 2023. This was just 3 days after the Palestinian massacre of Israelis, which preceded the Israeli military ground incursion into Gaza, which only began on October the 27th, 2023, on the date that Hart uploaded the post. This military action that Israel had taken was to clear Hamas cells from southern Israeli towns and kibbutzim, thereby making it a defensive campaign. They hadn't yet gone into Gaza as of the time of the publication. And so what this means is that when Hart calls for seeking refuge in Palestine through spirit and blood, while also brandishing an image of a parachuter, they are in support of the Hamas onslaught against Israeli civilians, given that the only military action that had been taken up until that point was the Hamas attack and then the IDF's defense of Israeli sovereign territory. But it doesn't end there. You see, here is another Instagram post, this time with Hart urging the Muslim community to recite the reverse contained in the image. Note how the phrase calls for putting our enemy to rout and help us in overpowering them. Yet again, this post was uploaded before the Israeli offensive, as it was published on October the 18th, 2023. Clearly, this is a call for Hamas and its allies to overpower Israel while the Israelis rout. We then move on to this passage from the Hadith, and it explains here that another example of Hart's intent in this Instagram post, which explains, "Sham will be conquered and Al-Quds will be conquered, and you and your sons will be imams there if Allah wills." Sham refers to the Bilad al-Sham region, which historically encompasses Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and the collective area of Palestine and Israel, ultimately meaning that there is an intention to conquer Israel and strip it of its Jewish inhabitants. Furthermore, Al-Quds is Jerusalem, meaning that this post voices support for the erasure of the non-Muslim presence in the city. Important to note is that Jerusalem is home to Jewish, Christian, and Armenian communities, as well as Muslims. And so to suggest that Islamists would conquer Jerusalem is to infer the erasure of these other communities from the city. While Hart's social media posts may contain disturbingly radical messaging, the organization's extremist links ran deeper than that. So, on a regular basis, Hart partners with Salam Foundation for fundraising events and charity appeals. The social media post below is one such example. Now, what I learned is that Salam Foundation is a non-profit company focused on humanitarian projects, as it says, but what it is important to understand here is that it's part of a bigger network. You see, Azar Vadi, who founded Salam Foundation, also is the founder of Salam Media, which likes to call itself humanitarian journalism. But what's really problematic by calling itself humanitarian journalism is that if we look into the organization, it is actually the opposite of that. You see, on December the 1st, 2023, soon after the October 7th attacks, Salam Media interviewed Hamas representative Khaled Khadoumi in a video still available on YouTube. In addition to forming part of the Hamas delegation that arrived in South Africa at the time of the interview, Khadoumi is Hamas's representative in Iran, where he is responsible for promoting Hamas's interests to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And so just to sum up so far, we have Ummah Heart, which has supporters embedded within Roedean School, hence why they decided to promote Ummah Heart as a partner to Roedean. But further than that, Ummah Heart is not only radical in their messaging on social media, but also with their links to Salam Foundation and by extension Salam Media, which is happy to talk to Hamas representatives and of all of them, the chief representative in Iran. But there's more. You see, what's really interesting is that the education system under which Ummah Heart finds itself appears to have been captured by extremism as well. So, the viewpoints of Ummah Heart don't come as a surprise, as I explained here, given the attitudes of the Muslim Judicial Council President, Sheikh Riyad Fattar. You see, the MJC oversees Muslim education in South Africa, providing the religious frameworks and certifications to validate madrasas, Islamic education institutions in South Africa. During a gathering organized by the aforementioned Salam Media, and here we see MJC's link to Salam Media, Fattar declared his support for Hamas, screaming, "I am Hamas, Cape Town is Hamas, we support Hamas because it follows the Quranic verse in Surah Al-Baqarah where Allah commands, fight those who fight you." What's more, he then reiterated in a video interview with that same Salam Media, "I am Hamas, Cape Town is Hamas, viva Hamas, viva." And so ultimately, if this sort of unequivocal support for Hamas is voiced by a top Islamic leader in South Africa, particularly one who oversees standards in madrasas around the country, then it comes as no surprise that Ummah Heart and its supporters feel emboldened to express such extremist views as well. And so, in conclusion, I explained that given Ummah Heart's extremist views, including support for Hamas's violence, and the clear endorsement that some parents at Roedean have given the organization, it is clear that an element of Islamic extremism exists within the walls of the prestigious South African private school. It thus comes as little surprise that anti-Semitism has been allowed to fester. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you found it informative, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider becoming a Power Club member by clicking the join button below. Furthermore, please make sure to like and share this article on X so that we can get it out to as many people as possible so that they too can be equipped with this vital information of what's going on in one of South Africa's foremost elite private schools. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.